actually good because let me raise my seat up a little bit here. I think you sent me a couple topics, and I don't think everybody really knows the history on all this, but um, you and I met by you reaching out to me,
Yeah.
and I started this, and we'll get into later why I started what I'm doing, but um, you reached out to me, and I know you were down. I think that was what. Damn, time flies because time doesn't exist, right? But
Yeah.
it's like I don't know, 2 months. Was it two
Yeah. It was
months?
like early May.
Yeah, so it was like almost, geez, June, July. Yeah, about 3 months ago, and I know you were down and you were struggling through some stuff, and you started following me, and I didn't have a lot of followers, too many followers then, but um,
Thank God, or else you would have never seen my request.
no, yeah, I try. No, it's tough because I try to respond to every comment, every. I got stuck responding to every comment because the comments come in a lot. There's some videos out there I put out there that's 700,000, 800,000 views, and comments are like thousands, and I can't reply to every comment. And
Yeah,
I got
that's the problem.
a full-time job on top of it. So
Yeah.
so it was. I remember talking with you, and you were kind of down, and I responded back, and we wind up talking. I think it was yeah, we wind up talking for like I don't know 2 hours, 3 hours, something like that on the phone.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
checked up on you, and you started doing really good, really good, really good. You went to a couple job things, and was telling me about those, and then we were pretty much, I don't know, friends, close since then. So we always
Yeah.
kind of bounce off each other and say, hey, and you started a podcast on Spotify, and I'm like, shit,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go on Spotify, and you gotta show me how because I'm lost with that stuff. Um, no, that's actually good. So we talked everything from, family relationships. We talked about personal relationships. We talked about trauma. We talked about a lot of different things. And, it all comes down to like me and you talked. And when we speak, it's like perception, how you see things. And I think
Yeah.
one of the topics, um, I like this guy, man. He just puts, do you think the Giants are going to make it to the playoffs? I mean, if we're talking New York Giants, man, they still playing in the NFL. But I'll tell you, I know we started talking a lot about relationships because, I mean, to me, relationships is everything within this human experience because it's not just
Yeah.
intimate, it's not just romantic, it's personal, it's family, it's work relationships, it's everything's relationships. Relationship with your animal, your pets, your dog. Um,
Yeah.
and I think reality, everybody's got their own reality based on their perception, but it's how you see things.
Right.
And I
And I
think,
think when I reached out to you, I was having a lot of problems or just like concerns and like doubts of my personal relationships with my family, with my ex partner. So it was like I was feeling and dealing with a lot of it of from every corner, every area. And so that's why I felt so lost at the moment because I just felt like I couldn't find anything healthy or I couldn't find like where, I was in the common denominator of, why I couldn't have a decent or a healthy relationship with anyone around me. And that's why I was like, I need to talk to someone that believes in the things I believe in so that I can get some like, just get reminded of like, the struggles that we will face with relationships when it comes to our partners, when it comes to family, and that's where you came in and gave me that much needed help.
I really feel that, the relationship with others is just a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself.
Right.
So, you know, you always, what triggers others, or you in others is what's within you. So if there's something that irritates you about somebody, if there's something that if I got a friend, somebody I'm dating, somebody I'm in an intimate relationship with, and I'm like, man, it gets on my nerves, man. It's like, wow, why should you do this? Why should you do that? That's within me. If this person's being authentic and if you're sitting there, the person doesn't have any ill intent, malicious intent, right, is what I call it.
Right.
if you're getting triggered, that's inside of you. It's just like the friendship, man. If somebody says something to you and you get angry, you get irritated, you get frustrated, and the person's just being themselves. It's just they may say
Yeah.
something. That's a trigger inside of you. So it's more like investigate that why you're triggered, not so much as what this person needs to say, do, or act.
Right.
I think what happens is you find a lot of people that are firm to their beliefs. But I think a lot of the issues is where did your beliefs come from?
Yeah.
Are they really your beliefs or are they passed down to you?
Yeah.
I always say the same. I said the same thing to you. It's like, how do you know your dad's your dad? Because your mom told you. Well, what else? It's like, what else she tell you?
Yeah.
What else she tell you to like, be, act, what you should do, who you should hang around with, what you believe in. I had this conversation. I never talked about religion, but why do you believe in what you believe? Because your parents practice it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we never question that. We never
Yeah.
question, and I tell people, it's like, if you ever find yourself saying, oh, God, that's weird. Why do you do that? It's like, have you ever done it? Have you ever
Mm-hmm.
tasted it, ate it, drove it, acted it, whatever? Have you ever done those things? And what you find out is the person hasn't.
Right.
So why is it weird? Why is it crazy? Question everything.
Yeah.
I'm like the why person. It's like, ask yourself why until you get to the root. And
Yeah.
once you get to the root, it's like the root is, well, my parents told me. Well, that's what my friends do. Well, that's what I grew up on. Well, that's what I was told. Well, then it's not really your belief, is it?
Yeah.
I'll
And a
walk
lot
with
of times we get to our like I didn't realize who I was, what I believed in until I was like 35. So it's like because like in everyone's normal life or whatever, they're just so busy living life and working and or doing school and just doing the same thing they've been doing their whole lives. They don't make the time to figure out, all right, who really am I? What do I really believe in? Because a lot of times like our parents plant this information so hard and so deep and so like strictly and you just don't question it, especially like for me and being in a Hispanic household, it's almost difficult to question. It's just do what they say, and that's just how it is. So it's sad that we get to such an like for me it was kind of sad that at 35 I started to realize who I really was and what I really believed in. And when I finally searched it, it made so much sense. I got so much peace from it, just knowing like this is what I resonate with. This makes sense to me. So that's the
you.
problem too,
Yeah,
that we don't search.
it's almost like when you think about when you're growing up, right? You're always told, I told you so, that's
Hmm.
why, or, don't embarrass the family,
Yeah.
keep your mouth shut, grow up, quit dreaming, stuff like that. And I always use this, man.
Yeah.
If you look at the most top successful people, they have not lost their, creativity, their imagination, their expression. Those are the highest human faculties. So
Yeah.
it's like here's what's crazy. It's like we're all chasing what everybody else has.
Yeah.
Nothing's unique. So if
Yeah.
you look at things, it's like it's like it's not like you're all trying to create anything. You're all trying to compete. And it's like
Right.
compete against what? Something that doesn't matter. I got a better house, I got a better car, I got a better job, I make more money. But at the end, your pillowcase is still soaked at the end of the night because you're miserable.
Yeah. Or you're
And
still unhealthy, or fighting with your partner, or having a bad experience, or having a sick feeling of going to work because it's not really what you want to do, or it's not your passion, but you got to get you have to pay the bills, because that's what I was told. It doesn't matter if you don't like what you do. You need to take care of your family, so do
well,
it.
that's where you take it. And I don't mean to ever really get deep with people, but it's like back in the day when you had Maslow's theory of hierarchy and human needs. And it's like, you go from the pyramid at the bottom all the way to the top. And the bottom is like, food, shelter. And all the way to the top, realizing yourself and what you're here for. And if you look now in the latest generations, that whole pyramid is like flipped upside down. This generation now, that the older generation says, oh, you know what, man, they're lazy. And I consider myself an old generation, but a young generation thinking, because if you look at, you know, people now that are taking jobs, they want a sense of purpose, self-actualization from that position, from that
Yeah.
relationship, whether it's with family or intimate. And back in the day, it was just like, no, you got food, shelter, you got a job, you make money, you get a house, you procreate, you die. And I say
Yep.
it all the time. It's like animals do the same thing, and we're the highest sophisticated being on the planet. But animals
Yeah.
do the same thing, and they do it better without the drama.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like I always say, I can talk shit and get killed. So that's the way the animal society works. But it's like now, people, I always said, you're like a high powered machine, right? And we don't learn how to operate this machine. So what we do is we just start hitting any key on the keyboard and see if it works. And if not, we just go to our neighbor and see what they're doing. We just start pressing the same keys.
Yep.
You're never going to be, who you want to be by looking outward. You got to look
Yep.
inward. And
Yep.
and that's where I think people really, when you look at relationships and unhappiness and burnout, it's like I have so many conversations with so many people, and it's like when you get up in the morning, where are you going? And you can test it with anybody. Where are you going? Well, I'm going to work. No, really, where are you going? What do you need? And I'll have conversations an hour, 2 hours with people who be like, man, dude, that was a great conversation. I feel so fulfilled. I said, you know what? It really makes you question what the hell you've been talking about for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
Shit. What's for dinner? What's on TV tonight? Where are we going Saturday? God, what the hell are you doing? What are you creating? What are you sharing? Something better. And when we talk about relationships, bouncing back into relationships now, it's like, we always say, oh, you always see that sign at the campground, and it says, leave the place better than what you found it. And then people apply that at campground. They apply that with Earth and, stuff like that. But it's like, how many people really apply that with relationships? I've seen some breakups I've been through them, bitter as hell,
Yeah.
But how about if you honestly look and say, why don't you leave the person better than when they came to you or you joined?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you operate from there, because everyone takes everything so damn personal. Look what she
Yeah.
did to me. Look what she did. And I'm like,
Yeah.
they didn't do it to you.
Yeah.
They had a life before you. So I had a conversation with a couple of people, and I said, how long were you together? And it was 2 years, 3 years. And I talked to a lot of people one-on-ones. And I don't charge anything. It's a nonprofit organization. And I put my own time into it. And one of the things I said was like, I can't believe that he did this to me. I can't believe she did this to me. And I'm like, how long were you together? Oh, like 2, 3 years. And I'm like, okay, how old? Well, they're 35. Okay, so we'll go 3 years. Dude, that's 32 years. They were 32 years before you. They had a life before you. You didn't program this person in 32 years, in 3 years out of 32. You didn't do it. Or out of 35. So it's like they've learned along the way how they're conditioned and programmed. And I tell people, it's like challenge your beliefs. Why do you believe? If you want to, I always say this, it's like, I'm not the Dr. Kevorkian of relationships. I'm really not. And trust me, I've been called a lot of things, but I'm like, question what is the purpose of the relationship? You can ask anybody this. Ask anybody that has a boyfriend, a girlfriend, husband, or wife and say, what's the purpose of having a relationship? They'll give you a basic answer. A few will give you a detailed answer. Most will give you basic. What do you mean? That's what you do.
You're checking the box. Like,
Where did that
get
come from?
married, have kids, buy a house. I'm just checking the box. Because a lot of times I feel like when you look at relationships, they sound and look very selfish. It's like me, me, me. What are you providing for me? What are you doing for me? And then we forget that we are both human beings that have gone through, our own upbringings. We have childhood trauma that has affected the way that we think. A lot of times our parents have narcissistic traits that were implanted in us and we don't even know. They have names to that they're toxic. And so we grow up and we go into these relationships doing the same thing we saw in our houses. And so that's why when you say like we take it personal, it's like, why do you take it personal? Like you gave that person a place in your life, but you're not willing to accept their criticism or say, hey, or when they tell you, hey, like you're doing something that's kind of like off or it doesn't feel right with me. And then, you get offended instead of saying like, oh, I'm sorry. Let me look into that. Let me see what I can do to fix it. Or let me see, how to identify it and work on it. And that's why I had brought that topic to you, because it's like we give these people a place in our lives and we do so much with them, but yet we refuse to take their constructive criticism or their concerns of like, hey, this doesn't feel right. And then it's like, no, you point back the finger like, no, I did it because you did this. And so instead of like feeling offended, we should really just look in and see what we can do to improve it. And a lot of times, many people turn around and point, or they run away from the relationship because it's just not. You tend to say, "Oh, well, if I'm such a problem, well, then maybe we shouldn't be together." Instead of saying, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see what let me look within and see what I can do about it."
Most people look outside to solve what's inside.
Yep.
And anybody that has a comment of how much their life sucks, or it's like this. I challenge anybody, even if I throw this there and start a nonprofit organization like I did, and I push Project 24, you're always going to get your small percentage of negative comments.
Mm-hmm.
And I use it, I don't even use it as fuel because it's so minute. Because really, how I look at it is, what is everybody else doing? How are you trying to make the place better or share information that you learn? If you learn certain things, well, share them. And if you're not sharing them, that's fine. I always say this: you wake up one or two ways. You're either going to wake up as a creator, or you're going to wake up as a survivor. And I'm sorry to say it, most people wake up surviving. And what happens when you survive? You consume. You consume everything around you with activities, things that don't matter. But if you're a creator, you're going to be of use to yourself, to your relationship, to your family, to your neighborhood, community, state, country, world. What are you creating? And if you're really not creating anything, just consuming, then go ahead and consume. I got nothing wrong with that. Don't complain when you don't feel fulfilled. And the same thing in relationships. You have to invest what you have. And a lot of people, I'm telling you right now, they can shake their heads, look up in the sky, whatever it is. Love, trust, honesty, truth is not given, it's shared. You can't share what you don't own. And most people that have struggles are not honest with themselves. I'm fine. I'm good. But they're not. They're not honest with themselves. They don't love themselves.
Yeah.
They can't even be truthful with themselves.
Yeah.
They don't take self-care. And if you ain't taking care of yourself, how you gonna take care of a relationship, bro? You're not doing
exactly.
It. All you gotta do is
exactly.
blame. All you gotta do is blame, criticize, point. But it's like the mirror's right in front of you, man. I mean, the mirror's right in front of you. I see some of the negative comments on mine. I'm like, oh goodness gracious, really? It's like it doesn't really faze me because I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm going. I don't care what they offer it. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
But I think that starts with you as a person, because if you're spitting venom, if you're spitting vile, if you're just criticizing everything and blaming everybody around you, what are you getting from it?
Yeah. One of the biggest things I've learned in life is that you attract what you are. You attract what you're feeling, what you're thinking. And so that's why it's super important to really work on yourself, because the thing is, the biggest thing I learned was, especially with my kids, is I had to work on me first, because I can fake it in front of my kids all day long. But if inside I'm feeling angry or upset or frustrated, they're feeling that energy come off of me. And so there's nothing that I can say that's going to change that until I really go within and work on myself. And a lot of times we do and we do and we do and we do for other people because, we want to be the good guy, making ourselves miserable. And then we end up, what is it called? Resenting people because we did it for them, not for us. And so the more we keep doing for others and not respect our boundaries or not respect the things that you do or do not want to do, you start getting angry and it starts to mess with your relationships. You start pointing at them when really it was you. If you didn't want to do it, why did you do it? Respect your happiness, respect your peace, respect your calling, and not continue to do for others if you know it's not something you truly want to do. And that was big with me too. I was like a people pleaser, and I realized I didn't want to do that. And so I make myself miserable and unhappy by doing for others instead of, just choosing not to.
Well, I think a lot of people, what they do is they give to receive.
Yeah.
And I say this religious, and you can do this with anybody, and I do it a lot. You want to see the true colors of somebody, stop giving them what they want. See how they react.
Yeah.
A lot of people preach that it's high heaven about all this. They stop getting what they want, or they're out. And it's like, so you really didn't have unconditional love, even for yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like,
that was another.
You give to receive. You have all these expectations.
Yeah.
It's kind of bouncing what we were talking about the other day in relation to why don't people really listen to what somebody's saying to them instead of trying to change them. And
Yeah.
it's like, I never really try to change anybody. I just try to share different perspectives, perceptions with them.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of people do is, if somebody says one thing, they think they can change that person into another.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then,
You're signing yourself up for disappointment, putting expectations on others that are not willing to do the work is just, you're really just signing up for disappointment. And like you said, like we're all grown, and if they're going to change, they're going to do it. They don't need you to like to push it. And I like to give like not an advice or an opinion, just like my perspective, or like, this is how I went through it, or, got out of that. And it's up to them if they want to take it or try it. But to put expectations on people is signing up for disappointment.
but
I mean,
everybody
at least
does.
that's what I've learned.
I think everybody puts expectations on people. And my question is why?
Yeah.
Why are you expecting something? It's like you expect something because you think you earned it. Well,
Yeah.
how'd you earn it? Because you maybe did one or two things for them? Come on now.
Yeah.
What are you really after?
Yeah.
And I think just number one, a lot of people blame people because they don't want to take responsibility. They don't want
Yep.
to take accountability for their own actions or what they're doing and say, hey, you know what, man, I'm sorry. I put too many expectations in this and I shouldn't have. Just let me allow you to be you. And I'm not talking about
Yeah.
like if somebody has one communication style and you're trying to share a couple different ones with them. I'm talking about like really like investing. It's just like I used to say, don't loan somebody $500 if you can't afford to lose 500.
Yep.
Don't do it.
Yep.
But you see
Hmm.
it a lot in relationships. A
Yep.
lot. People give, and then when they don't receive or expect to get what they thought they were going to get, all hell breaks loose.
Yep.
And it's like all you were doing at that point was just giving to receive. Don't do it. I don't want it. And
Yep.
I'm like that. I don't want it. If you want something from this, I don't want it.
Exactly.
Give because you're sharing. Give because that's who you are.
You're
You have a lot of
able.
compassion, empathy, and you're able to. But if you're
Right.
not, don't do it. And there's a lot of people that, I mean, come on. You can look at Christmas and Valentine's Day and all these things where people freaking go in debt just to give, 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 give. And then when they don't get what they get, before you know it, they're done. And then they're sitting here with deficit and saying, oh man, I'm broke. I should never did this. And it's like, come on.
Yeah.
You
I
shouldn't
mean,
have.
I've heard of relationships that go down south because of, I gave you so many things for Christmas and you only got me this. And it's like, oh, so, again, it's like you're giving just to make sure that you get a good gift too or something. And it's like, I don't even feel like that's love. Like, give out of your, from your heart and without expecting anything back. That feels way much better than like, getting disappointed from not getting all the things that you thought you were going to get because you spent so much money.
And it's funny when you said that because the first thing I think of is what you give, do you give yourself? And
Hmm.
I'm not talking to monetary because there's a lot of males, I'm not gonna lie. A lot of males and a lot of females make a lot more money nowadays than when my mother was here. But um, when people focus on the monetary, in my past, I might bring up a monetary thing just to say how much I extended out in the act, not the dollar sign, but the
Yeah.
planning and the trip and whatever. People just focus on the monetary gifts, but it's like, wait a minute here, man. I'm just thinking randomly out loud, like how many don't really give something that's of importance, you
Yeah.
know? I mean, if you think about like, okay, flowers is nice, but a lot of them even wait until like holidays. But it's like, how isn't every day a holiday for you?
Exactly.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's exactly how what I say about like Valentine's Day. I'm like, that Valentine's Day is so overrated. Like every day show up for me because I'm going to show up for you every day. Every day I'm going to make sure there's something special, or I'm aware of what your needs are, and taking care of you in all those ways. I don't need one day to just like show up for you. Having a good partnership is showing up every day, not just specific days where everybody else is doing the same thing. I'm really big about that. Like, just like, no, show up for me every day. You don't have to
I'm
do anything
thinking about it.
special.
It's like you're only gonna, and it's what you pinpointed earlier. You receive what you are.
Hmm.
Period.
Yep.
If you if you give shit, you're getting shit. And if you
Yep.
give shit, it's because inside you feel like shit. I mean, that's just how it is. And people can debate all you want. I'll do a debate with anybody they want. And I'm like, I don't get it. It's like you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are.
Yep.
And
Yep.
what you find a lot of times is, I did this in another video I did. I sat down with another podcast, and when I explain it, like, look, when I was really on the thin side, looking like I was on drugs and a crackhead, everybody around me, I didn't like my job. I had in and out relationships. Um, Everybody around me in my circle, simple. They didn't like their jobs. They were unhappy in a relationship. They just spoke to problems,
Yeah.
And then when I decided to say enough's enough, went dark 10 years ago, you saw pictures. You wouldn't even recognize me if that person was standing next to me.
Yeah.
And when I went dark 6, 7 months, nothing around me but go to work, come home, work on myself, my whole world changed.
Yeah.
And I started being what I want. It's not like I went out and just started, hey, I'm Dominic, can I be your friend? No, I just started being what I wanted to be and what I wanted in my life. And then before you know, it was 9 days. I had two big jams. I'm big in UFC. I'm big in boxing, and I would have these jams at my house for pay-per-view events. And I use this example, like when I went through my transformation, it was like the year that I was down and out, I can see the people at my house. 2 years later, I did another MMA event, UFC, and the whole dynamic was different. I didn't look for them. I didn't go say, like I said, hey, be my friend. I became what I want in my life, whether it was people that were successful in relationships, successful in jobs, a service to others, kind, compassionate, empathy. I can look at anybody, when we talk about social media, because I did one talk where, people go under pseudonyms, and she knows, Sarah knows, I can mention her name. She knows what I'm talking about, where she would mention how, some people would go under pseudonyms and go to other people's accounts and comment, stuff like that. And I'm like, people do that because they hide from themselves. But the
Yeah.
same people that speak negativity, speak problems, are angry, are frustrated, are stressed, I guarantee it, their circle around them, whoever they communicate with daily, are the same way.
Yeah. They have to be in order to deal with it. Because
Like, that's life.
yeah, because I cannot be around people that are just always talking about their problems or like never the solution, just always wanting to just, complain and complain and complain. I cannot be around those kind of people. I like to be around people that are looking for the solutions. Like, how do I fix that? And another thing too that I noticed with my own transformation is that you set the standard for how people respect you, how people see you, how they treat you. And so when you look like you take care of yourself and you value yourself and you respect yourself, how can they come with anything less without feeling like, I don't know, unworthy to even come into your bubble? Because now that person carries himself in a certain way. So if I know I can bring the same kind of respect to them, I don't even want to be around them. I really feel like sometimes your light can like attract or turn away people that are just not on the same page as you are.
Exactly. But you're not, most of the people that come into your
I
life,
can't hear you, Dominic.
you can't hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Oh, hear it. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yeah,
All right.
I got you now.
Most of the people that come into your life that trigger you, that's no coincidence. If you get frustrated, if you get triggered, man, this person's on, man, and I did this video where I said everybody around us is a mirror.
Yep.
What you see in somebody is actually inside of you. Your close people, what you see in them is actually inside of you. If
Yep.
your spouse, if your boyfriend, girlfriend, if the person you're close to, your best friend, if you're talking to them and you say, man, it freaking triggers me, that's inside of you.
Yep.
And then you got to figure out what it is inside of you and rip it out.
Yep. That means you got to work on something. Don't
But
avoid it. Look in.
so many people don't do the work, and they end a friendship, they end a relationship, they leave a marriage.
Because it's uncomfortable to look in within. It's uncomfortable to think that because this was my story where my that I had narcissistic traits in me, and I was no, because genuinely I felt like I was a good person. I didn't want to like be manipulative or gaslight or anything like that, but I just didn't know it had a name. And so that's where we get confused. Like, listen, don't take it personal. It's okay that you have a good heart and you meant well, but we have to do some work. If someone that you love and you respect and you've given the place of boyfriend, husband, you know, anything, friend, best friend, like look within if someone like you care so much about is telling you something. But that was the hard part for me, because I genuinely was thinking that I was being a good person and I was doing things out of from the heart. It wasn't meant to be manipulative, and I didn't know that it could have been, it could have been that too. So a lot of times we don't. It's uncomfortable. It's super uncomfortable to be like, oh my god, I was manipulating you. And that's where we need to just get out of our heads and just work, be willing to work.
And again, for me, it goes back to how you see and what the perception is. You, I said this before. I said, be careful what you look for because you're going to find it.
Yeah,
If you're looking for failure, you're going to find it. If you're looking for bad qualities, you're going to find them. If you're
yeah,
looking for infidelity, you're going to find it. And it's not like the person is doing these things. You're going to find things to validate what lens you're using.
right.
And I say, stop. It's like you got to start looking at the things you want, not the things you don't want. And what a lot of people do, and I do a lot of different sessions with people, a lot of people do is they look for things and it comes to them and then they wonder why it happened. And I'm like, well, you're looking for it. I could understand if it's like really true infidelity in a sense, but I'm going to say this: it's not. You need some security, and I don't mean like so and so told me, or I saw the message myself, or I seen the person cheat, or I seen the person lie, or I caught them in a lie. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when people really have insecurities inside
Yeah,
and they carry it into the next relationship, okay? And then they look for signs. They're
yeah,
looking for flags, and it's almost like, why are you looking for flags?
yeah,
You're not. If somebody's walking in, and we always talk about, man, red flag, red flag, red flag, and I'll speak to videos on red flags. If you've been able to learn from it, recognize it, put it aside, and go forward. But if you're just walking into relationships or situationships, and all you're doing is looking for flags, what are you in a relationship for?
yeah. You're not ready. You're not, you haven't done the work on yourself, I feel, because that was me before. Always looking for when they mess up. And it's like, I'm almost like attracting it and manifesting it, because you're going so hard on the where's the negativity, where's the problem, and what I learned as well is like the more confident I got in myself and knowing who I was, knowing what I bring to the table, I cared less and less about the flags, and I was just more careful about certain things that were on my boundaries, and that was more important. It's just like, as long as you don't do something that's gonna cross a boundary of mine, then I'm not gonna be searching for anything, because my confidence was taking care of all those things that I was worried about in the past. And that's where, again, when you do the self work, it clears a lot of all the other issues that you have and you create in relationships.
I think sometimes the issue is that people, and this, people don't want to do the work. They put it on the partner. I think everybody owns a piece of the pie.
Yeah,
Whether what it is, maybe it's 10%, 5%, 75%, 50%. Everybody has a responsibility in that relationship. The relationship is not you. The relationship is not her. The relationship is, unless you're making the relationship you, and that's the biggest mistake, is you're identifying yourself as something you're not.
yeah,
So I'm like, you own something. There's no winner. There's no loser. The relationship is gone. You both lose the relationship. So it's
yeah,
like you got to take a piece and say, okay, for myself to move forward, what was it that I take? And I'm not worried about what the other person takes at all.
yeah,
Not at all. So if that's the case, that's the case. But people, like I said, they don't want to take accountability, responsibility for actions. They want to blame. They want to point. And if you want to keep doing that, let me know how the rest of your life turns out.
yeah,
I mean, I'm not. I
yeah,
don't mean that in a rude way. It's just more like, you find, I mean, seriously, go volunteer at a hospice. All you hear about is people in regret.
Yeah.
You know, when I lost both my parents last year in the same month, I'll tell you what, I listened to my father, and all my father had was regret.
Yeah.
I'm not going to live like that.
No.
I saw that. And I think the real big thing that the human being side and the human experience side thinks that everybody else dies. No, bro, you're going to die yourself. Every day you wake up, you're one day closer. Not
Yeah.
sure what your time is, but you're one day closer. So you have to
Yeah.
be able to own what you have, move forward, and have the best experience. That's what I think it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and I think the most beautiful thing when you have a good partnership is that you allow each other the freedom to mess up and then to learn and to grow and to change, not hold them accountable or not hold them to this person that you met. Like there's so many couples that they've been together since high school and it's like you have to expect to, for both of you to be changing and growing and possibly, not having the same likes or the same hobbies or things like that. Like allow each other to change and grow. And I think giving each other that freedom, it releases that pressure of having to hold up this whole character that you showed this person when you first met them. So that's
Yeah,
something that I learned too, that's super important to just not hold me to this thing, because feeling like I'm supposed to continue to be the same person, it also affects each other. It affects yourself, because you
how do
feel
you
like you want
grow?
to
How
change.
do you grow? How do you learn? Again, you know, even if I look at some of the comments, like Christina even puts, it's a vicious cycle if you don't own yours. Yeah,
Hmm.
accountability, responsibility, own it. You know,
Yep.
the same one where a relationship is us 50-50. You invest 50 what you have. I
Yep.
can't share with you what I don't have. If I don't have trust for myself, honesty for myself, love for myself, what am I sharing? Zero. And it's like people don't. I don't understand why sometimes folks don't. And this is where the passion comes out. I don't understand people operate this. Oh, he didn't give me enough love. She didn't give me enough love. Bro, listen. You're not giving
Yeah.
me anything. We're sharing it. And if you don't own it, what are you sharing? You know, it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Exactly. You have the power to move different. Hell yeah, you do. You have to realize you have the power. But so many people stay crippled.
Yep.
Oh, I got no choice, man. Yeah, you have a choice.
Yep.
I said it before. So many people wake up like an accident. You know, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm awake. I guess I'll just go do something. It's like they don't even plan out. And I think the biggest thing I ever heard, you know, from a great philosopher was people forget they die. Leave this reality. I believe in everlasting life. I believe we're all spiritual beings having a human
Hmm.
experience, and this is just a human experience. But I think
Yep.
they forget this is a temporary experience.
Yep.
And it's like, you know, you hear it all the time. If you say to somebody, say, if you knew you were in that week, what would you do? And they name all these things. Man, I call this person, I go travel here, I go travel there, then why aren't you doing it?
Yep.
Then why aren't you doing it?
Yep.
And I don't understand it. Do what you want to do. Everyone thinks they have time. And it's not, and to me it's not. You all you're doing is going to work. All you're doing is just paying bills, and most of the people are paying bills for cars they don't want, houses that are too expensive, and doing
Yeah.
things they don't even love.
Exactly.
And I'm
Putting all that money into the house that they have to stay in the weekends because they've paid for it and they can't afford to do anything else. But I feel like a lot of this mentality was implanted into us since we were kids from our parents, because they came into this world and they were on survival mode, so everything was about survival and go and make a good money and get a house and security. Everything was just that. So it's been implanted and it made it scary to get out of that box. It was scary, the idea of doing what you actually dreamed of doing. It's like, no, that doesn't make enough money. You have to go get a job. It's
oh,
like, it's
I
this the
look
fear
at
that's been implanted.
you know, like she says, we all have two lives. The second one begins when you realize you have one. Exactly. And if you
Yeah.
look at, I hope I'm pronouncing your
Yeah.
name, Coulter, I think it's Coulter. You know, we're all born alone. We die alone, period. And I kind of, just hear me out for a minute. I kind of challenge that in a way to say, how do you really define alone? You know, how you really, I know people disagree with me on this, but are you really alone? Physically, maybe, but you're always with yourself. And if you recognize yourself, and to me, just me, don't shoot me, but it's like I don't feel like I'm really ever alone. Physically, maybe I have my dogs I snuggle up with, but I'll tell you, it's like I think, yeah, thank you, and I'll tell you, but mentally, you're never alone. I mean, you know how many
Mm-mm.
conversations I used to say this, man. I used to say this all the time. I said, people will think, by their standard, you're freaking crazy because
Me
I
too.
talk, I talk to myself a lot, but it comes in
Yeah.
thought, but I answer out loud. So I don't
Mhm.
verbally ask myself questions. It comes
Mhm.
in and I answer out loud and it'd be like, who the hell is he talking to? I had people over, dating and stuff like that. They would say, what'd you say? I'm like, just talk to myself because I'm just answering
Mhm.
myself. But I
Yep.
know physically it is. And as the human being experienced, it's like we long for that physical touch, that affection, that intimacy of having somebody to open up to. But I think it becomes, from my experience, and I got a handful of relationships I went through and a few marriages, and I think it's really having that relationship with yourself where
Yep.
you really learn to, you know, you know, give to
And
others, but really you're giving to yourself first. And I'm reading the same thing what Nora just said. Mentally, if you are spiritually set, you're never alone. Exactly.
yeah.
I always go by four bodies, physical, spiritual, emotional, mental. Once you
Yep.
have that alignment, and maybe they'll agree with me, but it's like spirituality has zero to do with religion.
Yep.
All religions basically speak to the same thing of a universal concept, a power, a source, a divine, a God, or whatever you want to call them. I don't judge religions. It's your freedom and your choice to practice what you want to practice. But I think it's important to have that as a belief in a higher power to understand, and align your life with that. One of the things that I talked about recently with a few folks was, really what's your values? And a lot of folks don't even have them. So it's like, what's your values? And when you think, and I'm like, what do you value? I value truth, honesty, vulnerability, openness, and if you can't spit them out, what are you operating from? You're walking into a relationship, you're walking into a friendship. Let me tell you this. What qualities are you having in that friendship? Or are you just like doing the same stuff?
Yep.
It's like doing the same stuff here. I'll have a drink and we'll talk about NFL and baseball and stuff like that. Till the end of that, now what?
Yep.
I mean, you and I talked about some deep conversations. I have deep conversations all the time. And I had some that, like I said, would look and say, man, that was the most fulfilling conversation I had. And I'm like, the hell you been talking about for the last 35 years?
Yeah.
Seriously, what have you been
Yeah.
talking about? But once you start believing, and I do this a lot, I tell people this, you got a full moon. I mean, I'm spiritual and universal and stuff. And
Mhm.
just past the sturgeon moon just this past week. But I'm like,
Mhm.
go outside, look up in the sky, look at the moon. Nobody here created it.
Yep.
Let me tell how much problems you have. I mean, it's a bigger scale.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the feeling alone thing, what I discovered too is like if you can't be alone with yourself, how do you expect others to want to hang out with you if you can't even hang out with you?
That's
You
it.
know? It's
I
like
got
and when I started to work on myself, I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with being alone because my company was enough. My company, my conversations with myself were enough. And I
But you got
laugh
to
with
be honest
myself.
because, but you got to be honest because,
Hmm.
and this is where it is. You have to go through a few days, or depending on your inside, you have to go through that discomfort.
Yep.
So when you're alone, I do this, and I share this a lot, and folks that know me that are listening to this, they know I speak this. I'm like, if you're driving home from work and you got a decent commute of 30 minutes, turn the radio off, put your phone in the backpack, put it in the back seat so you can't reach it. Drive in silence. I've done this with people, and I ask them to follow up, and they say the first day or two was uncomfortable. I said, well, let me introduce you to yourself.
And most of the time, if it's uncomfortable, it's because you don't want to like go within, or you're just scared of what thoughts may come up. Because what I feel when I'm in alone, or it's quiet, is you start hearing your higher self coming, kind of talking to you, and it's going to start pointing out some things or some realities, and that's where it gets scary. If you're not ready to do the work, that's where you're like, oh no, like why am I thinking that, or why did that just come to my head? And so again, it's a process, and it is uncomfortable at first, but once you get in it and you start just to feel like these thoughts and these words coming into your head, it starts to get a little bit more uncomfortable as you go
I'm
along, because a
telling
lot
you,
of times
it's
it's
like,
good information coming in.
oh, 100%. Because even the same thing Coulter is putting in the chat right now, it's like, listen, it's uncomfortable at the start because you're not used to it. You realize how much
Mm-hmm.
stimuli you drown yourself with. Headphones in the
Yep.
gym, radio on the way to work, podcasts on the way home, get home, having conversations, doing your alone time pretty much comes by the time you lay down to the time you fall asleep.
Yep.
And
And
it's
even
like,
then, we'll put the TV on to put us to sleep, you know? So it's like, when
oh,
do
a
you
lot of
really
people
have
do
alone
that.
time?
No, and it's like shut the TV off, go spend some time by yourself. And when the first uncomfortable thought, discomfort thought comes in, don't run, just let it pass. And I
Mm-hmm.
said sometimes it's like this. It's like watching a TV show. And you got to look at it like thoughts. So you're watching the show, then it goes to a commercial. The commercial is thoughts, and everybody's reacting to every damn commercial. Stop, just
Yep.
let it play. Don't label
Yep.
anything bad, don't label anything good. It's just a thought,
Yep.
which also even brings so many people live outside of now. I do this a lot too at work. I tell people, I challenge people to ask these things. Say, hey, how you doing? They're going to tell you what happened this past weekend. They're going to tell you what's going on later in the week. They're not
Yeah.
going to tell you how they're doing right now.
No.
And it's like, so you're back in the weekend and you're down on Thursday already and it's Monday.
Yep.
And it's like, what? Bring yourself back to now. I have so many conversations with people. I say, don't think of anything like this, for example. Don't think of anything going on an hour ago or tomorrow or tonight. Just think right now we're having this conversation.
Yep.
Right now. What
Be
problems do you
present.
have? What problems do you have? The electric's on, the bill's on, the water's running. You're worried
Yeah.
about tomorrow. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's like your
Yeah.
phone's on, we're communicating. You can
Yeah.
talk, you can speak, you're alive. What problems do you have right now? And somebody's going to tell me, oh, I got to tell you about problems. You're going to tell me about something that happened in the past or is happening tomorrow.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to bring yourself grounded to the present moment.
I mean, we only have control of the present moment. You
That's
know,
it.
the more we struggle about, thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, it's really just a waste of energy, because you don't have control of that. Right now, in the moment is what you have control of. And that's why I had to learn that too. Like, stop living in yesterday and tomorrow. Live in the now, because
Got to
it's
live in
beautiful
now.
to live in the now. You have the control of the now, and you can change the now. You can't change tomorrow. So,
That's true. I
I feel
mean,
that's so toxic too.
anything outside of anything else, and this is what you hear it a lot, with debates and arguments and people having issues because they're thinking about the future, they're reliving the past. Listen, the
Hmm.
past and the future only live within you. It's not real.
Hmm.
It's not real.
Yeah.
That, that's
Yeah.
that's all it is. Yes, and exactly what Coulter said, but it is now that matters. And I'll tell you, everything else, if you look, it's like in my belief, everything happens as it should. Everything
Hmm.
happens. Whether you see a sign, whether you act in a situation, there's no whether you go through a hardship, failed marriage, relationships, job loss, whatever it is, everything happens for a reason.
Yep.
And I think the biggest thing is understanding and learning from that experience. I don't regret any relationship I was ever in. I learned from the experience.
Yep.
It's an experience. I know people are still bitter about relationships 4 years ago.
Yep.
And it's probably because they haven't learned the lesson. And
Yep.
what Christina just said, you're not going to miss out on what is meant for you as long as you pay attention.
Yep.
I say that it's like master the art of paying attention. Pay attention to yourself, your moods, your up, down, your log it. I
Yep.
tell people, carry a little pad with you. The minute you feel frustrated, where are you at? Who would you talk to? What are you doing? And then see if it's a pattern. It might be this person you continuously talk to once a week. It might be your boss saying something to you. It might be that family member saying something or doing something. You got to be able to pay attention to these things.
Yep.
That's the only way you change it.
Yeah,
So
otherwise you're just trying to figure out who to point the finger or how to figure it out. And that's, I think that's a perfect way to do it. Just write it down when it happens and start keeping track of that. And then
I'm
protect your energy, protect your space, and don't go around that person that makes you feel
and
that
when
way.
people know this, you're like, everything's vibration. I had this
Mm-hmm.
conversation. It's like, everything's vibration. They're like, what do you mean, man? I'm like,
Yep.
everything's vibration. You're energy and you vibrate. Oh, I don't believe in that shit, man. But it's the same
Yep.
people that sit there and say, oh, I got a bad vibe from them. Oh, vibe is short for vibration.
Yeah.
So you do understand. We just
Yeah.
speak in a different language. But it's like you really feel a vibe somebody. You know, it's like, man, this thing is bad news. I shouldn't be doing this. In and you're like, I'm not even going that route because that's a whole nother story about ego and intuition. But I'll just say gut. We I think learn to follow our gut because our gut's never wrong. And if it's something we know we shouldn't do, don't do it. But it's
Yeah.
like we need to, understand that sometimes, you know, anything outside of our gut instincts doesn't really pay off well. So I really feel. Did you freeze up? No, you didn't. Okay.
No, I didn't. I'm just trying to see if that noise is coming from my house or
I think
where,
it's your
because
house because it's not from mine.
okay.
But you okay? Yeah, it's yours.
Jaden, Celine,
This is why I love
Celine.
it. This is just.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding. So I think it's following your gut. And I'm not going to go deeper than your gut because I know I use a lot of different terms like solar plexus and heart chakra and stuff like that. But I think it's following your gut. Your gut never really steers you wrong.
Yeah.
And I think some
No,
people,
and that's where I learned like things were working out for me when I was just following my instinct, following my gut, and you really can't go wrong. And that's why it's important to stay quiet so you can identify when it's like your instincts, like or when it's
that's why you
that gut
have that.
feeling.
And that's why you have to have that time, even if it's driving a car. If
Yeah.
somebody tells me they don't have time to, you know, um, they don't have time to spend time alone, do it in your commute. Because if you got a 20-minute commute, 30-minute commute, that's an hour a day, both ways. In the morning and coming home. You have that time. If you choose
Yeah.
not to use it, don't use it. But I think the only way you are able to hear these things and become in tune with yourself is to spend the time with yourself. But also just always make sure you have a rhythm of being what you want.
Yeah.
So if I want to be open, honest, truthful, unconditional, loving to myself, caring, compassionate, empathetic, I got to be those things. And it's no coincidence when those things come to me. But if I'm going to be bitter, angry, blaming, superficial, money focused, materialistic, physical body only, there's no reason or no coincidence why these things are manifesting to me as well. We get what we are, not what we want.
Yeah.
So I think that's very
Yeah.
important to kind of realize those things.
Yeah. And I've learned that firsthand. And that's why when I talk about these things on my podcast, on my YouTube channel, I say it with so much confidence because I've been on both ends of it.
Oh
Where I
yeah.
was the person that was angry and always projecting my insecurities and all that stuff. And until I did the work, I realized like, holy crap, how does everything change around you when you've changed within? When you've done the work, when you've seen, where you can be better and you really start attracting it. And I almost feel like it's like being in a building with different floors. If you're vibing like on the first floor where it's all negative, that's exactly what you're going to get. All the people that are on the same floor. So it's not until you bring yourself up to that level that you want to be in that nobody else can reach you. Not the negative people can reach you anymore because your light and your energy is just not on their vibe. It's not on their vibration level. And so that's how I try to explain it to my kids. Like, listen, you're on the wrong floor. You need to go. Sorry.
There you go.
Sorry. Like you need to get on the right floor. Right now you're on the wrong floor. You're on the negative floor. So just fix your vibe, get back on the right floor so that you can attract on the right, on the right level, on the right energy. And so I think that's super huge, just to always look within first because, you're attracting it. You're welcoming it. They see you like they see themselves. If they're negative, then that means you're doing something wrong.
But no, yeah, 100%. I mean, I think you really need to go inside, Look at yourself. If you're not liking what's around you, and I used to back it up. It was from Joe Dispenza, great, great, great person, great motivational speaker, chiropractor. Went through some really life experiences and wrote a lot of books. And like what he said was, your reality, your personality is your reality, which is based on what? Energy vibration, which comes from your thoughts. If you don't like
Yep.
your personal reality, change your thoughts. Because if all you're
Yep.
thinking is negative, 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 that's all it's going to be around.
Yep.
And it's not like, oh, be positive. No, man, because you define positive, negative, not me. What you
Yep.
think is good, I might think is bad. And what I think is bad, you might think is good. So I don't care what the populace believes. It doesn't matter to me. You define
Exactly.
everything in your world. So that goes from good to bad. And I'm telling you, if people don't challenge themselves with what good and bad is, not what society thinks good and bad is, or culture thinks, you got to decide this stuff for yourself.
Yep.
That's it. And a
Yep.
lot of people don't. And that's what I think where a lot of relationship problems come in. A lot of
Yep.
expectations, a lot of conclusions, no real firm beliefs because they're just going generational curse, generational curse, generational curse. They don't
Yep.
break it, you know?
That's
So,
the thing, generational curses. As I talk about that a lot. Like we're just continuing the cycle. It's not until you do the work and you break the cycle that you're going to see something different. And you might lose people in the process, and that's okay because they're just not on the same
there's
page of the
no
self work.
written rule. It's like what she just said, satisfy your soul, not society. And that's so true because, I mean, just that statement alone, is you really,
Hmm.
really think about it. You're like, what are you satisfying by doing what society's doing? Nothing. Zero.
Yeah.
But if you satisfy yourself, even if it means you may be around one or two people, so what?
Yeah.
It's like what anybody I've seen in big groups of people, they're miserable. You
Yep.
know, and when people say, "Oh, I got a lot of friends," no, you got acquaintances. You
Yeah.
have acquaintances,
Yep.
and it's like almost like you got, and that's why almost in every video I try to with what I say is keep being true to yourself. You got to be true to yourself.
Yep.
Are you really happy where you're at?
Yep.
If you're not, what are you going to take to change it? And if you're scared to, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yep.
I would see it. I would talk to a lot of people that were going through divorces, and when it was all said and done, they were like, "Oh my God, best thing," whatever. But they fought it. Why? Because what is my parents going to say? I lost the house. What is my friends going to think? I don't drive this car anymore. When I
Hmm.
hear those things, I feel really bad for them
Yep.
because I'm like, that's all you know. So when you base yourself, or you get a lot of people that say, what I say when it goes to that, we talk about cars and houses and whatnot. You get a lot of people that say, "Well, I'm still trying to find myself." I said, just eliminate the things you're not.
Yeah.
You're not your job. You're
Like.
not your car. You're not your house. You're not your family. You're not a mother. That's your role. You're not a father. That's your role. Your kids pass through you. You don't own them.
Yep.
It's like really eliminate the things you're not. And what you come back to really realize is, I'm just a being here, man. I mean, that's that. I'm just a being here having a human experience, and I'm gonna make it. I don't
Yeah.
know. Body. Where I have to learn to align my spirituality, know that there's a higher power. I have to learn how to operate from a balanced mental state, emotional state. You got people that's four cylinders. You got people running around on one cylinder or two cylinders, over, under,
Yeah.
left, right, all over the place. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think the biggest thing I'm trying to change is even the label mental illness. I think everything is wellness.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go talk to a counselor because I don't have an illness, but it's not. It's wellness. You have to have emotional wellness, mental wellness, physical wellness, spiritual
Yeah.
wellness. Not,
I
not.
feel emotional is the biggest one. I feel, the emotional can really help with the physical if you get the emotional down because another thing I like to say a lot in my content is, when you're trying to change yourself and physical too, and weight loss and all that, you got to kind of start in your mental health and your emotional health, because if your emotions are always out of whack, you're putting your body through fight or flight all day long,
all the
and
time.
that's going to affect, your physical. It's going to affect the way you lose fat or retain fat. So emotional is, I think, so huge, and we forget how important emotional and mental health is.
It is very important. I think, and a lot of people probably disagree when I say this. Um, what I'm saying is, it's like, even when you look at physical health and even diets, I said this before, you know, diets don't help you lose. Diets don't lose weight. Self love does.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really love yourself, you're going to do things to make sure that happens, whether it's an assistance with a diet, but diets itself alone does not lose weight. Self love does. That's why you see a lot of
Yeah.
people that go on weight loss, and they do, and then they regain a lot of the weight back, you know,
Yep.
because
Yeah.
there's
It's,
so people not loving themselves. And I'll tell you, that's huge to me. Very,
yeah.
very huge.
Yep. I mean, that was my story. I had to really learn to love myself, and love myself so much that I was not going to do those things anymore because I loved myself too much. So I would always say, like, oh, that person isn't worth for me to go through fight or flight mode. I love myself too much to allow that. And so you start to protect yourself. It's almost like protecting that inner child inside of you, letting them shine, letting them do the things they love. The more you feed your inner child, that's where I feel like that's where you really just start to learn who you really are. When you see that smile, when you laugh like a kid, that's the stuff that helps you heal and grow and, figure out, like, who am I? Like, let me go back to where I was a child, because that's when we got messed up. That's when we were molded into where we were supposed to be. So let's go back to where in the beginning, where we were innocent and trying to be ourselves when we were told not to.
And and that's where I'm at. It's like, really just back up to your childhood, look at your conditioning, look at why you believe things, why you what your beliefs are, and then you really have to challenge them. You have to
Yeah.
challenge them to a point of, is it what I really believe?
Yeah.
Not because my parents did, or not because my friends did, or the people that are around me did. It's like,
Yeah.
why do I believe these things? And
Exactly.
since
Especially if it
child,
doesn't work. If you look around, like, if you think back on, I don't know, maybe it's different, but like if you look at your parents and you see their relationship, is that the relationship you want to have? Okay, then why are we still taking their advice? Why are we still doing it the way they taught us? If we see something and it's not the way we would like it to have happen, like, I don't want a relationship like that. Okay, well then, what do we need to?
oh, I think we lost her.
Sorry, I don't know what's happening. My phone is having like electrical problems.
And I'll tell you, I agree with that, because anybody that gives me advice, if they want to give me advice, most people don't,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the time I won't listen to it, but I
Yep.
just beat by my own drum. But, if somebody gives advice, I always look at where they're at. You should do
Yep.
this with your life. You should do this. And most of the time, when you look at their result, you're like, which we don't. We have this respect. We have these, things where we believe people because we love them, and we want their opinions, but we're not looking at what their result is.
Yep.
And if somebody that's giving me advice is unhappy in a marriage for 15 years, I'm not going to really take too much of
No.
it.
Just
I'm
like I
going to get
wouldn't.
it.
Sorry. I was
Go
gonna say,
ahead.
just like I wouldn't take advice from somebody like on a fitness level if they don't have the body type that I'm going for. Like, I cannot take you serious, because it's like, no, I'm gonna listen to the one that has the body shape or the body type I want, because you got it, you know how to get there. I'm not gonna take advice from someone that's heavier set or something. It's like, well, you're not even doing it yourself. Like, how am I supposed to follow your
But
lead?
you lost the, so I remember the amount. I can't really remember the amount of weight, but you lost how much weight?
90 pounds. I
Yeah.
went from 240 to, I think right now I'm like 170, 165, back and forth. I've been getting some muscle, but yeah.
Yeah. And I used to be on the other end, where I was like 145 as a pencil, I'm like 192 right now. But so I gained 50, you lost the amount you lost. And I'll tell
90.
you, it
Thank
for
you.
me did not, for me in my journey in that kind of way, it didn't start in the gym. It started internal.
Yep.
And I tell people
Same.
that, like, oh, what'd you do, man? I said, what did I do? I went dark for about 7 months. And
Yep.
I focused on myself. I wrote, I listened. I didn't just
Yep.
go to the gym and say, oh, look at me now. No. And it's like,
Yeah.
even when I see pictures, the next one we do, episode we do, we'll have to share pictures because even when I look at that person, I call it on the left because the picture shows my old me on the left. I'm like, that's a whole separate person.
Yep.
That's a whole,
I am nowhere near that person anymore.
but
I was so angry of
what's crazy is you can look at that picture and you can speak like it's another person because, like, oh man, I remember how
yeah.
insecure he was. I remember how
Yeah.
he had no direction. He didn't know where the hell he was going. He
Yep.
just waking up like an accident, driving all over the place. Didn't matter, no compass.
Yep.
And the friends were
Yep.
the same. And it's like once I kind of realized that, and really, again, it started with me. Just I didn't like the results I was getting, and to me, I wiped the board clean. I just stopped, just cleared everybody off my table.
Yep.
You
Or they
know,
just disappear because you no longer relate to them. You no longer get drunk on the weekends. You no longer sit there and talk crap about people or life or complain about work. You start to just see that, oh man, like I don't want to, that's not the conversation I want to have anymore. So if you don't cut them out, they cut themselves out because they no longer, they can't, they almost feel like, this is what I felt. I felt like the friends that I had before, they looked at me like, oh, you think you're too good now because you don't want to get drunk, or you think you're too good now because you don't sit there and talk and criticize about others. And like, it's like, no, I just don't want to do that anymore. It no longer vibes with me. I'd rather work on solutions. I'd rather work on, how to better things instead of just sitting there talk about the problem over and over and over again. But and people love pity parties. People love just sit there and just to complain. So, if they fall off, they fall off.
I think now it's like even if I walk into a room of old friends and stuff like that, the energy is nobody able to withstand it. But I don't like. I'm pretty. They can say whatever they want. They can judge whoever they want. I don't judge myself, so I'm not judging anybody. And if they want to speak different, they can speak different. But I think sometimes when you're really, what I believe is that when you're really, and you can call them four cups if you want, when you have all four cups full and level, and there's not much anybody's really going to say to you unless it's from a distance, because
Yeah.
people feel energy, people feel vibration. And again, like I said, if I'm sitting in a room and I see this person walk in, male or female, off the bat, man, this guy's got some strong energy. Like what the hell is this? Like it's good, it feels good. It's like I tell you, once you get my experience, it's like once you get fully there, and I'm not saying I am, but once you get fully there and aligned across the board, all four cups, like I said, level, all four bodies equal, all four cylinders level. I'm going to tell you, and it's true, energy introduces you before you even speak. It's like
Yep.
you know,
100%.
when you got a man or a woman that is that balanced, it's not cocky, it's confident, and they know the difference
Yep.
when you walk in, and it just demands attention. You could have a
Yep.
male do it, you could have a female do it, and everybody's been through where you have that one motherfucker that walks in, and you're like, whoa, and it's
Yep.
just nothing but safe, peace, love, respect, empathy. The way the person carries themselves, you're like, man, I don't know what it is about this cat, man, but this guy's cool as shit. I don't know what's
Yep.
about this one, man, but this lady's cool as shit. And you just know it. You just know it, and you feel it. So there we go.
Oh my goodness. Give me 1 second. I need to tell this girl to be quiet.
Oh, go ahead. You're seeing in the background. That's joy right there, right? That's what I think. Be crazy if you start seeing a pillow fighting people boxing. I'll be like, last live event I'm gonna do. Oh look, there's that cat. It's a cat. Yep, sure is a cat right there.
Oh my goodness, I am so sorry.
No, that's okay. So I'll tell you, it's like um, that's what I think is very important. Once you get a line, it's like you don't even have to worry about anybody talking at all. There's just not they don't feel it at that point.
Yeah.
So I think
I
that's
mean, I could tell you from experience, like the more and more I find out who I am and I get confident in everything that I do, I say, how I walk, I can tell you in the last 2 weeks, I've felt such a shift on, like you said, when someone walks into the room, it's like, whoa, like who is she? And I've gotten so many compliments from strangers, like, man, there's something about you that's really different, or there's an energy that you bring that's really different. And I've been told so many times too, like, oh my god, you make me nervous, like and I think it's just because you walk with that confidence, you walk with that knowing of who you are, and nobody can take that away from you. So it's the best gift you can give yourself, to know who you are and what you like, what you're willing to accept, what you're not willing to accept. I mean, it's it's an ongoing
you
gift
have
for
to
yourself.
you have to be comfortable with yourself. And I'll tell you, because we can finish up with this, because I want to do another episode next week. And I want to know your thoughts on this. And I wrote a lot of other things down over the week, and it's just the way my mind works. But the only way you with yourself is to go through discomfort with yourself.
Yep.
And again, you got to get that quality time of self care by yourself. You got to be comfortable with you by yourself. And you said it earlier, and I'll put in my words, which is similar to yours. I had buddies that looked at me and said, I hate being alone. Well, how do you expect somebody to be happy being alone with you?
Yep.
It's not going to happen.
Yep.
Tyler Perry used to say it perfect, and that includes like your partners or your
Yep.
person, whoever it may be, And he said in this one, I think it was, I forgot what speech he did, maybe a Dia one, but he said, I'd rather be sitting there in a corner with a puppet and a goldfish than wondering what you're doing here.
Yeah.
If you don't like being alone and you don't like who you are, I'll tell you what, you need to like really recognize who you are and introduce yourself to yourself. And the only way that happens is when you sit there in silence in your thoughts and let them pass or do whatever you have to do, but be comfortable with yourself. Too many people are looking external to solve
Yep.
pieces internal, and you can't do that.
And then you wonder why you're so disappointed.
Yes.
It's because you were searching from the outside. And again, that's something else I learned too, that because I was looking for validation, I was looking for love from the outside, I found myself in really shitty relationships. It's because I didn't find love within. And that's why I tell people, like, you're over there looking for love. Love is right here. Love starts right here. You got to love yourself first. Because if you can't love yourself, nobody else is going to love you like you love you. So you set the standard, you set it up. And then,
Yeah, and I'll
once
tell
they
you,
see you how you do it, then they have to come with that. They have to match you, if not do better. Because what does she need me for? Look how much she loves herself. What does she need me for? I better come with more love, more something to make her feel like, oh, it's
I
nice to have
tell
you.
them, say this, and some people take it the wrong way, and I don't mean in any way that's bad. I just say, you know, what are you going to bring into this relationship that I can't do or pay somebody to do? And that includes sex.
Yep.
And that includes sex.
Yep.
So, and then it's like, no, I can clean my house. I got a passion for cooking, first generation Italian in this country. I'll tell you what, I can cook like a madman. I got a car. I got my own job, got my own house, pay my own bills. What are you going to bring? And
Yep.
and people get too busy thinking material. And I'm like, what I want you to bring is I want you to bring shared experiences that I can learn from. Give me an experience that you've been through that I can learn from. Speak to any kind of trauma you went through. We can learn together. I'll share mine with you. You share yours with me. I'll share what worked for me. You share what worked for you. I'm not talking about vacuuming my floor and cutting, or washing my car. I'm not talking about that. Give me something I can learn from. Because again, if I need that, I can get somebody else to do it for me or I do it myself. I want unique experience with a person, not
Yep.
not what everybody else has.
And
Not
that's why I tell people too that they have like life, they have a story. and they feel like, oh, I don't know if I want to, talk about it. Like, I feel vulnerable, and I'm just like, well, yeah, but you don't understand what you can do for others by sharing your story, your trauma. Like, they might be able to relate, or see how you came out of it, or just learn from it. What's the best thing that can come from something traumatic? The lesson.
The
The
lesson.
lesson. Try to find the lesson so that it's not in vain. You didn't go through that in vain, because there's always a reason why you went through it. Period.
Yeah, you have to just pay attention and look for it. Now, if I look at Coulter's, she says, "What is your answer to when you actually do love yourself, get getting deceived by the other person? Is that what it is?" She'll respond. She's pretty quick. Person's pretty quick. I don't know if it's male or female. I can't see the picture that small. But
Yes.
yeah, so let's say you love yourself, you have self love, and somebody else deceives you, lies to you, and does whatever. It's gonna sound crazy, but this is how I operate. Was it do you think that was done to you? Because I think when somebody deceives them, it's not done intentionally to you, it's what they're doing to themselves inside. I don't
Yeah.
I think what people do is they take it too serious, like too personal. Not too serious,
Yeah.
but too personal.
Too
If somebody
personal.
looked,
Yeah.
somebody looked and said, "Oh my God, man, he cheated on me." I look at it, the sense was, did he cheat on you? He didn't do anything to you, he did it to himself. His
Or was
cheating
it
has
done
nothing to
to
do with
you or for you?
it's too
As-
movie based. It's too movie based. When you look at these romance movies and these fiction movies and all this other stuff, we are taking everything personally. They did this to me. Come on, okay. Unless the person has malicious intent, unless the person is cheating at the same time sleeping with somebody saying, "Man, I'm giving it to her now, she's gonna regret." They're not doing that. They're doing the cheating, they're doing the deceiving, they're doing the lying, they're doing deception because of what they feel inside that has absolutely zero to do with you.
yep.
And I can't speak that louder. And again, you see my passion coming out of me because that is the truest thing. Unless you think that person really has nothing but malicious intent to you, like, "I'm gonna get you." They don't. You wouldn't have been with them from the beginning. They don't. They're doing it to themselves. It's got nothing to do with you. If somebody ghosts you, if somebody cheats on you, if somebody lies to you,
Yep.
them, not you. Now, if somebody wants to put it on you, then it's again on them of their lack of accountability and responsibility. Period.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. Yep. And like Christina said, they are mirroring how they feel about themselves. That's
Exactly.
exactly true. Yep. That was my case with my
100%.
ex.
100%.
Yep.
We
Just
all
projecting their
have,
insecurities.
and I'll cover this on another one, but we all have a balance of masculine and feminine inside of us. And if you speak to a population this way and say masculine, feminine, "Man, I got no masculine traits. I got no feminine traits." Bro, you have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm talking masculine, feminine energy, yin and yang. That's it. It doesn't have anything to do with gender or how you look or how you talk. And if you look at a masculine qualities and traits, energy within a person, that's logical and mental. If you look at a feminine energy, that's spiritual and emotional. The key is, what is it? Physical, which is logic, mental, spiritual, emotional. There's your four bodies within you. Yin and yang, balance them out. And if you got a dominant masculine, you're the ones that walk around that say, "Show me it and I'll believe it. Show me the evidence and I'll believe it. I'll believe it when I see it." And they focus on the physical and the body. And that's just the dominant masculine. If you look at the feminine traits, energy inside you, that's spiritual and emotional, where some people look where it should. Some things are meant to be experienced and not felt. They believe that there's a higher power. We're here for a common good. We're here to coexist, to co-create. So you tell me, if you base it on that logic, what's walking around the planet mainly? Dominant masculines in males and females. Not males versus females. Masculine energy is what's dominantly ruled inside a lot of human beings because they don't have any spirituality. They need to see it to believe it. They focus on the external physical things. They experience things that are meant to be experienced through spirituality, through emotions. So they're dominant masculine. And it's like, we'll cover a whole separate thing on that because people go, "What the hell is he talking about? I don't understand this stuff." But it's like, that's what it is. It's not how a person talks. It's not, big and muscular. It's how do you look at things? Do you look at things from a logical end? Do you have to see things to believe it, or can you experience things?
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is like when you look at some relationships that people, you know, they are really attracted to a person, they're really drawn to them. Your dominant masculines within that logical reasoning, they got to figure out why. Man, I don't understand why I'm drawn to them. Let me figure this out. You can't write it out. You got to experience. You got to experience it. They're trying to figure out the whys when there is nothing to write out or a math equation on the wall. You have to experience and go through it. Now, if you choose not to, then don't. You're looking for something logical. Not everything, most of the stuff in this world is not logic, it's man-made. Most of the things that bring fulfillment and happiness and joy is experienced through emotion. You can't touch it, but you feel it.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, that's where the key to joy is. Our natural state is happiness. People just do a lot of shit that's unhappy.
Yep.
So instead of saying, go to find my happiness, why don't you just stop doing the shit that makes you unhappy?
Yeah. Because it's already here.
I mean, that's it. Once you stop
Yeah.
doing those things, you're in your natural state of happiness.
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying. When you experience the emotions and you experience, when you really experience feeling the emotion, thought, that's when you live life. That's when you're doing a human experience. Not
Yep.
trying to fucking compete. I got a nicer car and a bigger house and I make more money. Man, dude,
Yeah.
that's true though.
Yep.
I think that's just how it is, but that's just where I'm at.
No, I agree 100%.
So what do I do?
And I even made a
You want to do another? We'll do what is it? Saturday night happy hours? That we want to call it? What is this?
yeah,
Because
that
it's
sounds good,
7 by
Saturday.
me. I think it's going on like 9 o'clock by me. But
Yeah, it's like almost 7 over here.
we'll just bounce between days. Maybe Fridays is just the first one we ever done. I'm gonna try to host the next one.
I was gonna say, I think if you host the next one, we might have some more listeners
Let
because
me
you
host
have
the
a
next
bigger
one.
following.
I'll host the next one. I'll do the next one. I mean, some of mine are probably listening in, but like I said, it's the first one. It's a Saturday night. I think what we should do also, and I'll ask around. I'll put a feeler out there. Even like what I find is like a Sunday. What I really like to do is when we do like Sundays, for example, like a
Hmm.
Sunday evening wrap up. You know what I mean? Like I always like doing Sunday recaps because it's like
Before
one
the week
is
starts.
before the week starts, recapping over the weekend. Don't live in the week, don't live in the past, but recap. Remember some good times over the weekends, learning some lessons, doing that kind of stuff, and then starting the week that way. So we could do maybe a Sunday, we can do, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll talk inside of here and we'll get some things together.
Yep. I'm
So
totally open to that and
yeah, so let's
available.
do that. So go enjoy the rest of your Saturday night. I'm gonna go make myself a little cocktail, and I know it's 9 o'clock, but I'm also gonna. Hey, you know what? I'm throwing some food on the grill.
Oh man,
Some type of
sounds
11
good.
o'clock. It doesn't matter. But you know what? I'm gonna cook like you because I'm doing like a grilled steak. I have these two flat iron steaks, so I'm gonna grill them. But I'm no pro. I'm grilling. I am. But I'm gonna chop up some lettuce, chop up steak. I got black beans. I got salsa, pico de gallo. I got spicy pico de gallo. Um, and I got some, what's the Mexican cheese that looks like a circle and a hockey puck? You know what I'm talking about?
Queso fresco.
Maybe, yes. And I got to
Will
break it
you
up
just
and
crumble it? Yeah.
crumble
I'm
it.
with Christina. She said
I
you
call it
just
the
invited us
Mexican
all to
feta.
dinner.
I call it the Mexican feta. And I tell you, that's
Oh
that's
yeah,
what I'm gonna do.
definitely. Mm-hmm.
It's great. So that's what I'm gonna do. Next time I'm gonna make it and eat in front of Christina and coach her and be like, do that. But
It
no,
sounds so good. You just gave me hungry.
I know.
Okay.
So let's do this. I'm gonna reach out to you tomorrow. We talk offline. So I mean, reach
Yeah.
out to me tomorrow and we'll get a game plan together and then we'll start making, I'll start doing some banners and stuff like that with you.
Sounds good. I'm
And
excited.
share, I'll host the
There's a
next
lot to
one.
talk about.
There is. I'll host the next one and we'll crash some topics again.
Sounds good. And thank you everyone
Sounds
who
good.
joined and
And yeah,
commented.
thanks for everybody who joined, commented, man. I love you guys and Coulter and Christina. Not going to forget you and the same thing with her as well. So awesome. And I appreciate you guys so much. And I'll be speaking to you tomorrow.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, have a good night. Enjoy your dinner and your cocktail.
Thank you.
And we'll talk soon.
And much love to everybody out there. You guys enjoy your night. You need anything, hit us up.
Yep.
All
Sounds
right, guys.
good.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.